big overall issues that everybody is dealing with, that have to do with, you know, politics and happenings on a national and international scale. And we're approaching those with a sense of mindfulness. As I say, looking at it from a higher perspective. And that involves letting go of the judgment involved. And this is something that's, well, I think hard to do for a lot of people, but very, very necessary in this very toxic environment that we are now in, where we have such strong, well, they call it partisan divide. We have such strong belief systems in one way or another that are conflicting and have become so emotionally ingrained in us that the actions that are taken by one side or another side are often judged immediately and become sources of stress. Because we have a sense of polarization right now, and that sense of polarization tells us that one person's or one group of people's interest is not only not the same as your group of people's interest, it goes exactly counter to it. And that their interests not only aren't aligned with yours, they want to wipe yours out. So hence, when you have situations like, the idea of gay marriage. Now, if you're a gay couple, and you want the benefits of marriage that society offers, and as far as, tax breaks and all of that kind of thing, that you would be entitled to as a couple, well, that's your life. That's your standard of living that you're talking about. It's your existence. It's that important to you. And on the other side, when you are a group of people that have deeply ingrained religious beliefs, that tell you that people who indulge in this gay marriage argument are fundamentally evil, are committing a sin, and that it should not be allowed to happen, and that it goes against the gift of God's connection between a man and a woman. That's deeply ingrained in them too. That's their life. That's their lifestyle. That's how they see the world. And their feeling is that the allowance of gay marriage takes away from how they want to feel and experience their lives. That's how they see it. I'm not agreeing with it, but what I'm saying is that when you have situations where someone's very existence, how they want to live their lives, is at stake, and they feel it's threatened by how someone else wants to live their life, well, obviously it's a very difficult situation to diffuse. And mindfulness as a practice can certainly help. And we're here, at this time in society and with this sense of polarization for a very important reason. We've created this again. So we have to understand why we've created it And we have to understand what it's teaching us and what it will allow us to remember about who and what we really are. So one of the areas that can help when we're talking about such volatile issues, and another one of those volatile issues came to the fore this weekend, having to do with climate change and science. Right here on the in Washington, D.C., on the National Mall, you may have seen news reports about it. There was a march for science and climate change awareness. And the reason that this very large protest was going on is because the fact that our new president and his administration have a very different take on climate change. In fact, they are quite skeptical about its actual existence, despite mounting evidence. And what these people marching wanted to do was to call the president's attention to the science. That science is important, and that by enacting legislation, which he has, which will not go to helping greenhouse gas emissions, will just simply keep the same kind of behaviors going, there's damage that can be done. That's what they're saying. And on the other side of the coin are the people who say, climate change isn't really happening, or it's a natural thing that's part of how the earth is, and we have very little to do with it, and it's just something that's people are using to make a lot of money or get certain legislation passed. So when you have differing ways of being, that again, it's not just a difference of opinion, it's a way of life that feels like it's being threatened by some other group's perception or the way they want to live their life. So as I said, these sorts of things can be diffused through mindfulness. And so one of the areas of mindfulness is judgment. I mean, I think more than anything else, judgment brings this level of stress to people's worlds. So there's an article here we're going to dive into a little bit by Bob Stahl and Steve Flowers, called "Are You Addicted to Being Judgy?" And I think the whole world seems to be somewhat addicted to that. So the subtitle of the article says, "When we practice investigating judgments and diffusing them, we can learn to choose how we look at things and react to them." Of all the wondrous array of thoughts that are possible, negative judgments about ourselves and others are one of the mind's compulsive obsessions. It's as if the human brain has a hyperactive gland that secretes judgments, just like the adrenal gland secretes adrenaline. Negative and reactive judgments can arise instantaneously and in regard to almost anything. Sometimes they focus almost exclusively on you, and sometimes almost exclusively on others. So the first exercise is investigating these judgments that we make, either on ourselves or on others. If you allow critical judgments to remain unexamined, they can come to occupy many of your thoughts and emotions and even your dreams. But if you examine them, if you go into them, you'll find repetitive themes that are connected to earlier life events and discover that even your judgments regarding others are often rooted to self-judgment or events that happened earlier in your life, sometimes when you were very young. So it's a good practice to investigate all of your judgments. And this practice will help you do exactly that. So here they go into, now this is about a 30-minute process that's involved, but I can explain to you the just the bare outline of it. So the first thing they recommend is mindful breathing for about 5 minutes. And we've talked about breathing techniques, particularly the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which we talked about last week, which is to breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 7, and then breathe out for a count of 8. So if you do about 5 minutes of this mindful breathing, that kind of settles you into the moment. And then once you've done that, you can bring to mind a strong judgment you may have had about yourself or someone else in the last few days. And then you take note of how your body feels, the sensations in your body as you feel into this judgment. See how your body feels. If there's a tingling, if there's a clenching, if there's a spasming, whatever you might feel. And just spend a few minutes, just detached, investigating how your body feels when you focus on this judgment. So once you get an idea of the sensations in your body, then you want to move on to the thoughts that accompany the judgment. So was there anything automatic in the way that the judgment came up? Such as a reaction to something or someone. So spend about 5 minutes investigating those thoughts that arose around the judgment. I mean, if there are a lot of thoughts, obviously you want to spend more time on that. And once you feel like you've explored the emotions, then you move on to the thoughts, then you move on to the emotions. Some judgments sometimes bring forth anger or sadness or shame or compassion. So investigate what you're feeling, what your emotions are around the judgment. So once you've spent some time doing that, you want to notice your observing mind, the part of you that's investigating the judgment, and is not itself judging anything, but simply observing the emotions, the thoughts, sensations, with curiosity. Like you got to go full on Mr. Spock from Star Trek. Just observing and going, fascinating. So once you've done that, you will want to think about whether this kind of judgment has come up before. How often does it come up? And any ideas why you have such strong reactions to it if you do? Is it something that's isolating you, or does it help you feel connected to someone or some place or some group? Where does it come from? So you want to just think about the history of the judgment and how it's been in your life. And perhaps it goes back all the way to, ideas that you were presented with as a child. And then the last part of this is actually written work. They want you to write about what came up for you in all those different areas, physical sensations and emotions, and any associations you might have found between the judgments and something that was going on in your life. So if you're, having a strong reaction, you heard the latest thing about what President Trump is doing. Encourages you. But if you find that you have a strong reaction to that, try the exercise. See how your body feels. Look at the emotions that are coming up. Examine it.